And hello and welcome to another Divorce TV show episode. I've got Kirsty going to be talking to us about financial planning and whether you can do it as a couple. And I'm also going to be introducing once again Susan Miller, who will be rounding off with a lovely healing, tapping, making life better, which seems to be really popular, finishing the shows with those sort of healings. So I'm really pleased with that because I massively look forward to them by the end of it. We're going to start now with roundup of the divorce news. I'm going to start with Vanity Fair, who are talking about Dan Brown. Private divorce goes public. The couple quietly divorced in 2019, but a year later things have got a little bit louder. I don't encourage anyone to use the courts as a way to get justice, inverted commas, but I can see why Dan Brown's wife is a little bit miffed. The Boston Globe first reported that Blythe Brown is suing her ex-husband, Dan Brown, on Tuesday. The lawsuit is over the divorce agreement from 2019 and namely accuses the author of misrepresenting their wealth in a sworn financial affidavit, plus emotional distress. I'll give you the details now, but it's good to know that if you do lie in these things, it can come back to bite you. The crux of the suit is the claim that Brown told Blythe that he didn't have any new projects in the works during the divorce proceedings. But at some point she discovered that he actually was working on projects, one of which is an NBC Universal series called Langdon. Blythe maintains that she had a hand in Brown's wildly successful work since their marriage in 1997, including influence on the Da Vinci Code, which Brown has long acknowledged in dedications and in interviews. Langdon is based on novels that they created together, she said. She agreed to a quiet divorce last year from her longtime husband Dan Brown. Only afterward did she learn that for years he had been deceiving her. Blythe asked that her ex-husband be held accountable for his dishonesty. According to the lawsuit, he also secretly used their money to buy gifts for women with whom he had affairs, diminishing their shared wealth. Allegedly, there were many. A horse trainer from Holland that his wife had hired, a hairdresser in New Hampshire, a politician in Anguilla, where the couple has a vacation home, and less creatively, a personal trainer. She added, "I trusted this man for decades as my life's love. We worked so hard together, struggling to build something meaningful. I don't recognise the man that Dan has become. It is time to reveal his deceit and betrayal. After so much pain, it is time for truth. It is time to right these wrongs." I totally get where she's coming from. I just hope that this is the way, going through the courts and making it so public is quite a desperate act, and it just does show that it would have been better if he'd just been honest in the first place. He really has made his own bed, and I guess he's going to have to lie in it. But I hope it works out for her, and what would be better is if the two of them just stopped all of this and managed to cut a deal, and he did the right thing. It would be best for both of them. So let's see what happens on that one. The next news story is one where I'm going to disagree a little bit, I think, here with the press and some members of the judiciary. The Financial Times is talking about the UK Supreme Court, which is accused of encouraging divorce tourism. A ruling allows estranged wife to pursue her claim in England rather than Scotland, in the hope, it claims, of a higher payout, as if that's somehow a bad thing. The photo of the wife is also, as you'll see, implying sort of ha-ha, which is deeply unfair, I think. I mean, this woman actually does live in England. She is no longer living in Scotland. So for her to want to use the UK law is not that odd at all, really. But they're kind of making it out that this is another rich woman trying to fleece her husband of all his money. The UK's highest court has ruled that the estranged wife of an English aristocrat can pursue her maintenance claim in England rather than Scotland, where the petition to end the marriage was filed, in a ruling which lawyers say opens the door to more divorce tourism. As if that's a problem for them. I mean, I'm sure the Scottish lot aren't too pleased, but I don't see why the UK lawyers would be complaining. The Supreme Court ruled against Charles Villiers, 57, who had contested an English appeal court decision that his estranged wife Emma should have her maintenance award dealt with by the English courts. Courts in Scotland, which has its own legal system, are less generous when awarding maintenance payouts. Mr. Villiers has asked the Supreme Court to reverse an earlier court decision that he should pay his estranged wife £2,500 a month plus legal fees of £3,000, and he accused his wife of trying it on as a so-called divorce tourist in the English courts. Remember, she does actually live in England, right? Philip Scales, one of the Supreme Court justices, said that spouses seeking maintenance payments were seen as the more vulnerable party, and so should be allowed to claim in whichever legal jurisdiction was most convenient and least expensive for them, and allows for the most generous maintenance provision. However, Nicholas Wilson, one of the two dissenting justices, said in his ruling that the decision would give an untrammelled licence to a wife to go forum shopping. In Scotland, divorce settlements are less generous, as inherited wealth is not usually included in any award, and maintenance is usually limited to 3 years, which isn't very long. By contrast, the English courts can award generous maintenance payments for life. I'm not sure when the last time they did that was, I have to say. I think that's, again, a little bit of a spin on the article. Usually maintenance is done on need, and the courts aren't particularly quick to give away someone's money without good reason. We move on to our last story of the day. E-Online, we've got Christina Ricci. She's filing for divorce from her husband after an alleged domestic incident. The divorce filing comes after US Weekly reported that Christina was granted an emergency protective order against her husband after police responded to a call at the actress's home. On the 25th of June, around 9:20 a.m, officers responded to a domestic battery radio call. The LAPD PIO confirmed to the publication, adding that a report was completed. James was not arrested, and it's unclear who made the call to the authorities. Earlier in the month, Christina took to Instagram, where she celebrated James on Father's Day weekend. "We love you, Daddy," she wrote online, when showcasing all of her son's homemade cards. I shared that story just as a reminder that it's tough and complicated in these matters, just as much for the famous as it is for all of us, and to be careful that we don't prejudge too quickly what's going on with all of these stories. And I'm now bringing in the lovely Kirsty. So I didn't give you much warning. I normally give a little bit more preamble. So Kirsty, as you can see from the screen here, is a financial planner. And I've introduced you to financial planners before, but in just as a little opener, before I ask you a question, Kirsty, could you just give us the sort of idiot's guide to what is a financial planner when in the world of divorce?
Somebody who can help you build a plan around your finances. And actually, whether it's divorce or separation, everybody should have a conversation with a financial planner. There's a myth that I'm keen to bust. My salary doesn't look like a telephone number, so therefore I can't speak to a financial planner. But of course, everybody should be thinking about a plan, whether you're 8 or 108. So.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that. Even my and even before you get to the plan stage, just finding out what's possible. Like my daughter has actually been chatting with you about mortgages, thinking ahead. The earlier you can start, the better, definitely. Absolutely. So what I wanted to talk about with you today is often when I'm talking to people around about financial planning, which I see as like a bit like a crystal ball looking into the future with the long-term cash flow forecasting, and really, really not just useful but essential when you're trying to work out how you should split things up in the best way.
Yeah.
People say, well, do we do them together or on our own? And sometimes they think that they should have their financial planner like a lawyer. It's just like all for them, and it's something kind of secretive. And I usually go, well, you know what? In a perfect world, you would both be together, sitting down, because you're just going to save so much time and so much hassle. And if you do have a few troubles, then use mediation, but bring the financial planner into the discussion. Have you yourself been able to work with couples who are divorcing?
Yes, and it is quite rare, and I totally appreciate that it's a challenging conversation to have, and it's an emotional conversation as well. So to get there, and I mean, hopefully you can share some insights on the workshop that we ran a few months ago around how couples might get to that place. But I've had a really impressive conversation this week with a couple who are very keen to agree a plan, and they've both been very brave. It's a very new separation. They're both feeling very vulnerable. There are both some concerns around trust. There are children involved, but this couple have been phenomenal in that they've come forwards. We've had a couple of conversations, and we've kind of agreed that my role is a financial planner, so I'm looking at what comes in, what goes out, what will stop, what will start, what will continue, and how can we build that as a plan for kind of the short term, the medium term, and the long term. And we've agreed that I will support them as much as I can, but if we start to get into a situation where we might need to enroll a mediator, somebody who is an expert in that area, that we may have to do that. But right now we're having a conversation, and on that, actually it came up very early on in that discussion around timing. So I guess there's two key areas. One is around, are you both in a place where you know the facts? So do we know what's happening with the children? Do we know what's happening with the house? But also, are you in the right headspace? Are you ready to be having those conversations? And again, back to, I guess, my initial point, it is very much around, it's a tough conversation to have, and it's a rare conversation that I can have two people who are doing it so well together, despite how difficult it is. But ultimately, they understand that they are the two people that can shape what that future looks like. So the other issue that popped up was around confronting issues that they don't agree on, and they both agreed that that's very important to do that in this space now. So that's been nothing but commendable. And then also just the piece that I touched on just now around financial planning. So there's the basics of kind of the audit, that if ever I have a conversation with a client, we have a fact find, we will talk about kind of your details, where you live, any health issues, your income, your expenditure. But it really is then looking at, okay, so what's the situation today? What might that situation look like roll on 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, and just trying to build that plan together. So it's kind of, I would kind of summarize, well, it's amazing if couples can have the conversation together and agree the numbers, but it is around the financial planning, confronting any issues that they really don't want to confront, and then the timing of it as well. But as I started the conversation, I mentioned that you'd done a session in a workshop, so it'd be great if people could hear your advice on that.
Well, I was going to actually mention one of the workshops that we've done, and before I say that, I just want to reiterate to people that this is the ideal, and it's often not the case, which is why it's lovely to talk about it. And even if you can just do a bit of time together, if you can talk about the bits you do agree with, it saves you so much time and
Absolutely.
Reduces and becomes illogical to start fighting each other, because ultimately you've still got to cut a deal and you want to be in charge of that process together. You don't have to agree on everything to be able to sit down with a financial planner. But quite often the way it works quite nicely, I think, is that you might work with one person and then go through things and then invite the other person in. And it's not like coming into a lawyer and being told this is what you should do. It's like, here are the numbers, this is how it works out. And sometimes I find that when someone's saying he or she's coming up with some very interesting theories about how things should be split, and they really haven't thought it through, I go, well, just don't argue with them and say, absolutely, let's look at how this works. Because when they see the figures, how they have to give up their job, go and work Sainsbury's at night stacking shelves in order to spend all that time with the children, which is admirable, but not necessarily properly practical. So it really helps get people into the reality space. But one thing I wanted to ask you about is I often quote something you said in one of the workshops about a lady you worked with, but unfortunately you didn't work with her soon enough, and she'd been so happy about getting the house in her divorce.
Yes, yeah, and actually I've now heard that 3 times. So yes, so it was a win. It had been a challenging conversation. She'd got the house, but unfortunately she's had to downsize twice since being in the house, because, to your point, the reality and affording the house is a very, very different scenario in some cases. And actually, recently I bumped into somebody who I'd spoken to, and she had an opportunity not to get a mortgage. Sorry, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but she had an opportunity not to get a mortgage, and I know her, and I've got to know her quite well, and I was able to say to her, if you don't need to get a mortgage and you've got an opportunity to have extra holidays or spend more time with your boys and do more fun leisure things, and you're self-employed and you don't need to get stressed about a mortgage. I bumped into her recently, and she shared with me that of course I did and went and got the mortgage, and now I wish I hadn't. So it's somebody like myself or you are in a position where when people will discuss their scenario, we can kind of, in a recommend and commend and in a safe space, challenge that a little, just to say, okay, yes, this scenario could look like this, but then let's work through what that reality looks like. And it might be exactly as you said, you rent a driveway, you work nights, you do whatever you can to make the numbers work. But do you want to do that? And is that in line with you, your values and your family? And it's really just exploring those conversations in a friendly, safe space to enable people to go through that and map out those scenarios and have that conversation.
When there's at least 2 conversations I've had very recently, which were literally where they really sorted with the finances, they're good with the numbers, they've looked into the future, and I've said, that's great. Don't you think you should just stress test those? Because I don't say you're not a financial planner who spent years and years passing exams. I say that's brilliant, because it is brilliant, and I say you're going to be a dream to Kirsty because you've already got all the facts and figures. But just having that other person to look at them and to ask the right questions and make sure you've thought of something, because it's such a massive decision, and once that consent order goes in and the finances are sorted, unless you're Dan Brown's wife, you're not really going to change anything. Yeah. And it really is, it's overwhelming. It's an overwhelming time, it's an overwhelming situation and conversation, and often I know in my experience I felt quite out of control with that, and I just wanted it, and one of my personal observations is generally women, and this is my own personal observation, is that women will just want it over as quickly as possible and won't necessarily then think through and map out. And it is a massive generalization, but from my own experience, I just wanted it over as quickly as possible, and I made some shockers of mistakes. So that's why I'm passionate about what I do now. Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, it's not brilliant that you had to go through divorce and that you had to learn the hard way, as we all do, unfortunately. But what is wonderful is that together we can make sure a lot of people don't make the same mistakes.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was very short notice, I know. It's really appreciated. You can go off and have a glass of wine now, and and when I tag you in on online, once it's all kind of rendered and done its thing, share away. And thank you so much for joining us, Kirsty.
Thank you. Thanks, Susie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was brilliant. Thanks to Kirsty. And if you want to contact her, you'll be able to see links on this as you're watching it, once it's not the live stream, but shortly afterwards, probably about 8:30ish. And also you'll be able to find her on the alternativedivorcedirectory.co.uk. Now we're going to do a little bit of learning, so get ready for this. And today I've broken it into 2 halves, so it's not too long, and we're going to look at stage 6 of the divorce first aid kit, which is part of the voyage, divorce discovery voyage, the divorce masterclass. The QR code there will take you in to that, and you can see, in fact, the whole first section is still available without having to pay anything or put any credit card details in. So especially if you're in the early stages, please make use of that. I won't be able to keep it all free forever. And if you can hear any background noises, they're nice sounds. They're not my children, but you might hear them because they're very noisy. So bandages and dressings, right? The American writer Mignon McLaughlin is quoted as saying, if you made a list of reasons why any couple got married and another list of reasons for their divorce, you'd have a hell of a lot of overlapping. If one partner in your marriage is a smoker, you're 75% to 91% more likely to divorce than smokers who are married to fellow smokers. The more similar people are in their values, backgrounds and life goals, the more likely they are to have a successful marriage. From age to ethnicity to unhealthy habits, dissimilarities between spouses increase divorce risks. This becomes as clear as day after the relationship has broken down. Wounded by divorce, you need to stop the bleeding. You need to find ways to ease the damage as your whole life feels like it's crumbling around you. But once you've bandaged up your life and started to get on track, dissecting the past can become an unhelpful occupation. An abiding memory for me was a friend calling me up while I was still in the family home, shortly after the breakup had happened, and she invited me and the kids to join her family on holiday in Scotland. I will never forget the immense sense of relief and gratitude that I felt at that moment. I had something to look forward to over the coming difficult weeks, and it was like a little glimmering light, a lifeline. And when I was feeling safe and in a nurturing environment, I was able to begin to process what was happening to me and to our family. And suddenly I went from, oh my God, how did this happen to us, to, oh my God, how did we ever come to be together in the first place? Reality really hits home now, and we had pretty much, apart from the children, nothing in common. What were we doing together for 10 years? This is a difficult time. It's like your whole past gets scrutinised in the search for reason to make sense of it all. You start to feel a bit stupid, and the natural reaction is humility? No, it's blame. Instead of saying to divorcing friends and work colleagues, yeah, I always thought he was wrong for you, or oh, you're better off without her, just be aware that you could inadvertently be fueling an adversarial divorce. Bandages indicate the need to take it easy, but too often people launch into an attack to justify the pain they are in, instead of taking time out and being open to long-term solutions. So even though you may think, what were we doing together all that time? Don't turn your confusion into attack and start looking for other reasons to justify why you are not together anymore. Try not to look for negative aspects. And if you are supporting someone else in the divorce journey, please don't point out all the bad things about their soon-to-be ex-spouse. We're now going to move forward to shared stories. I've been in my archives and I've found this video, and I very much hope that the person who's in it doesn't see this, but they're unlikely to. But if you know them, please don't say anything. Here we go.
Dad's going to be there on Christmas morning.
Why?
Because Marilyn's off in America seeing her family, so he's going to come and have Christmas with us.
And why is it important that your dad is able to be with us on Christmas morning when he doesn't live here anymore?
Because then I can be with you and him, and we don't have to choose which parent to spend Christmas with.
How would that be if you had to choose, do you think?
Really annoying. It'd suck.
And what about if you were just told, right, this year you're with this parent, you're this year with that? Do you think that would be okay?
No. Because it's really annoying when someone tells you which parent you have to be with or that you can't be with.
And why would it be difficult for you to choose?
Because if I picked you to spend Christmas with you, I'd just feel guilty for not picking Dad. And then if I picked Dad, I'd feel guilty for not picking you. So it's really annoying.
And do you think that it's easy for families who are no longer living in the same house together to spend Christmas together?
Most families no, but it's easy for us.
And why is that?
Because you're good friends with Dad.
And has that always been the case?
Since I can remember, but I'm guessing it wasn't just after you had broken up. That's just a wild guess.
It was trickier then. And so what's your message as someone who's 13 to parents who are going through family breakup with regard to Christmases in the future?
With regard to Christmases, break up right, please don't fight.
And what does that mean?
It means break up without fighting loads and still be friends. So you can spend Christmas together and not annoy your kids. Cut.
I love that one. That's in fact where I got I think I turned it round the other way, but please don't fight, break up right came from Joseph. We're going to now whiz through a couple of QR codes. So if you've got your phones ready, we've got the Divorce Financial Workshop. I'm very soon going to be announcing a new one of those. So this will put you on the waiting list. Anyone on the waiting list will get a special rate and also first dibs because we only have a limited number for each one. Of course, you're already, if you're going through divorce or family breakup, in the Facebook Best Way to Divorce Facebook group, but just in case you aren't, here's the QR code for that. The Secret Divorce Group. This group is growing. It's a lovely space. We meet together once a month and we chat and catch up with things. I bring in experts. Plus, it's a really good place to get hold of me to ask questions and find out things. So when, with regard to that one, you get 30 days free. And after that, it's cheap as chips. So use the QR code. And if you're anywhere in the process of divorce, you really should be in that very special group. And now we're ready to get our healing and with Susan Calmiller. So please make yourself comfortable. I'm going to run a little slide to intro her and then welcome Susan onto the stage, as it were. Right, Susan, just going to bring you in now. Where are you, Susan? You seem to have completely disappeared from my screen.
Oh, never.
Your camera doesn't appear to be on. Can you pop yourself on? Because you're a nice big S at the moment, which doesn't do you justice. So pop your camera on. We can hear you. Oh, there
Susie,
you are.
It's
Welcome.
going to be a little bit of a problem because I thought that
we
camera...
can hear you fine and we can see you, so there's no problem at all. You okay to carry on?
You can hear me, but not see me.
No, I can see you now. Absolutely fine. You just didn't have the camera on the Skype, not your camera, but the Skype. So you're right here in front of us now.
Okay,
that's perfect.
Splendid.
If you are able to move the camera down a tiny bit, I don't know if you can. Don't worry if you can't. It's just that you've got your name and a QR code either side of you, and I just want your head a little bit higher. And that's it, and get yourself perfect. That's much better. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do with us today?
We're going to do some tapping for calm and peace and tranquility.
Lovely. That'll be a great way to end. And I'll talk to you at the end. Thank you so much. So everyone, off you go.
Thank you. I do hope you're sitting comfortably, and thank you for inviting me back again to do some EFT tapping. I'm going to do a routine which will bring and offer calm and peace. You can, if you don't know tapping, just follow what I'm doing, and please repeat what I'm saying. I'll do it nice and slowly, and we're hoping to, after about 5 minutes or 6 minutes, to feel very content. So even though, please repeat after me, even though. Yep.
I'll do it on mine.
It's been technically very challenging, so I'm really hoping this works. 1, 2, 3, we're off again. Even though life can be pretty testing at times, however, I am welcoming calm into my life. And the second time, we'll just repeat it. Even though life can be testing and challenging, however, I'm accepting calm and welcoming peace. And I'm learning and happy to love myself more and more each day. So, top of the head, I'm not going to repeat the points, but if you just tap the points you think I'm tapping, carry on. So, welcoming peace. Welcoming peace into my life this evening. Welcoming peace. I'm going to make it quite repetitive tonight. This was always my plan. Let's see how it goes. Welcoming peace. Welcoming peace. Just repeat it quietly. No one can see you. Welcoming peace. And there's a lovely shoulder point here. It's tapping, releases energy held in the body. Welcoming peace. And up to the top of the head again. Deserving calm. I am deserving of calm in my life. I welcome calm. I am allowing calm into my space. Feeling calm. Allowing calm. Breathing it in. I am deserving of peace and calm. I am deserving of all the peace and calm I can receive. Breathing in peace and calm. Allowing it to flow through my body, go into every cell of my body. Feeling calm and peace. Welcoming them into my world this evening. Welcoming peace and calm. Last round. Believing I deserve. Believing totally in my heart that I deserve this peace and this calm. Filling my heart space with this calm. Breathe it in again. Taking in this peace and calm. Accepting of all this peace and calm in all the cells of my body, helping me to feel better about so many things. And tap the karate point again. I've accepted peace and calm. And when I feel stressed and challenged, I can take 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to practice at this very simple level, this calming technique. And I ask you once more to take 2 deep breaths. Do it with me. Breathe in for 4, hold for 2, out for 4. And hold and out. In, hold and out. There's so much you can do with EFT. That's just a little exercise, being deserving of peace, quiet, calm, tranquility when life gets challenging. Thank you, Susie.
Thank you very much, Susan. That was lovely. And just so people know, especially when they're watching on the replay, there's a great big QR code that you can see. Susan can't see it, but you can. Where does that take them, Susan? What happens if they go to that link that you sent me to attach with the QR code?
They'll go to my website, Hampshire EFT, where there's a lot of resources explaining who I work with, a complete variety to do with stress and anxiety and how stress can affect us in physical ways. It's very explanatory, and there are many videos of tapping routines. And probably tomorrow when the link goes up, I'll put in a couple of links.
That would be lovely. Thank you so much, Susan. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, so I hope you're feeling lovely and calm. And sometimes I go back to the ends of these shows in the evenings just to grab one of the healings or the meditations or the tappings. So this is a great thing about it being recorded. So now we come to the end of this show. And as ever, my message is eternally, in the war of divorce, make peace your weapon of choice.